Hello everyone, my name is Ms. Sara. I'm from the Lucy Robbins Wells Library and I'm one of the children's librarians here. I wanted to talk to you guys about some of my favorite recommendations for 3rd and 4th grade readers. So one of those books is going to be The Stardom Squad by Brian Weisfeld and Nicole Kear. So this book is about a group of kids that have to come together to start their own lemonade business as a class fundraiser. So our main character's name is Riza, and in her class they have a big fundraiser. So when you get to 6th grade, there's a huge fundraiser for a field trip that they go on. And this year, the field trip is going to be to Adventure Central, which is a super cool amusement park with some of the best roller coasters around. And whoever earns the most money in 1 week, 1 weekend for their fundraiser, gets a VIP tickets, 4 VIP tickets, one for each kid in the group. And Riza wants to win because these VIP tickets are pretty awesome. Not only do they get cool swag, so they get some t-shirts, they get some goodie bags, they get free snacks, concession stands, but they get 4 quick ticks, which are kind of like fast passes, if you know what that is. So it lets them skip to the head of all the lines, which means getting to ride the most rides on their field trip, which is something she definitely wants. But they're pretty hard. It's going to be pretty hard to win. So the challenge is in 1 weekend to run a lemonade stand that can only sell lemonade, nothing else at their stand. And they're going to be assigned to random groups. All right, well, this isn't looking so good. So she looks at her group assignment and sees that she is getting paired with Harriet, the class clown, Amelia, the new girl who thinks she knows everything. But on the plus side, she did get her best friend Dee Dee in her group. But it becomes quickly clear that these 4 girls cannot work together at all. They're constantly arguing. They never get together, all 4 of them at the same time, to discuss their plans. And the weekend is fast approaching. Do you think they'll be able to do it? Can they learn to work together and run the best lemonade stand and make the most money and earn those quick ticks? Well, Riza certainly hopes so. But you will have to read and find out if they are successful. So this is a really awesome book. If you've ever been interested in trying to start your own business with your friends, this might give you some insight on what it might be like and some of the challenges you might face. And if you really enjoy the Startup Squad, it is going to be a whole new series. So their second book is already out and it's called Face the Music, and there is more to come. So I definitely recommend these books for anyone who's ever been interested in trying to run their own business. The next set of books I want to talk to you about are books written by the author Katie O'Neill, who writes amazing graphic novels. So Katie O'Neill actually started off as a self-published artist. She was publishing all her stories online on a website called Tumblr. And there she was posting the story Princess Princess. And over time, this story became so popular, it gained such a big fan base that she actually got contacted by a publishing agency who wanted to publish her book into an actual book format instead of just being a webcomic. And that's what got her started writing a lot of really awesome graphic novels. And I'm going to tell you about a few of those today. So the first one we're going to talk about is Princess Princess, the story that started it all. And this is a story about 2 princesses. We have Amira and Sadie. So Amira would rather be a knight than a princess. And Sadie starts off her story being trapped in a tower, like a damsel in distress like you would expect. But when Amira rescues Sadie from her tower, they realize that both girls aren't exactly what they seem. They have a little bit more going on under the surface. Sadie's not just a damsel in distress, and Amira's not just a runaway princess. But as the 2 venture across the land and grow their friendship, they realize they might be exactly what the other needs. But they aren't out of the woods yet, because the evil sorceress that was keeping Sadie locked up in the tower will do anything to get Sadie back. So this is a really awesome, exciting adventure of 2 princesses that defy what you might expect from a princess story. So I definitely recommend checking out her very first novel, Princess Princess. Another one of the novels that I really love by Katie O'Neill is her Tea Dragon series. So she actually has 2 books out so far in the Tea Dragon series, one being the Tea Dragon Festival and the Tea Dragon Society. So the Tea Dragon Society was actually her second book that she got published, and it is the first of the Tea Dragon series, whereas Tea Dragon Festival is the sequel. But Tea Dragon Festival can be read in any order, so this is a companion novel. You don't have to read this one right after Tea Dragon Society. You can actually read this one first, or second, whatever you prefer. They don't go in an order. And later on this year, she's going to have a 3rd Tea Dragon Society story as well, if you enjoyed this series. So the Tea Dragons are little tiny dragons. So if you're thinking of a dragon, you want to think a lot smaller. Let's see if I can show you the picture. So these are a few of the tea dragons. So they're teeny little baby dragons who actually grow leaves all over their bodies that can be harvested and turned into tea. So each dragon is named after a different kind of tea. And in the story, our main character Rin grows up in a village where they take care of tea dragons. They live alongside the people there, and over time, people will harvest the leaves off the tea dragons so that they can continue to grow strong and healthy. So being around dragons is nothing new for Rin, until one day they stumble upon a real-life dragon. Not a teeny tiny tea dragon, but a full-grown dragon sleeping in the woods outside of town. Well, that dragon's name is Aiden, and Aiden is a young dragon who was once upon a time sent to protect her village. But Aiden fell under a curse where they fell asleep for 80 years. And now all the dragons are gone, and Aiden seems to be the only one left. While Rin and Aiden are on the case, they're going to try to figure out what happened to Aiden, what made them fall asleep for 80 years, and make sure that no one else falls under this curse. So this is a really fun story, all about dragons and friendship. So I definitely recommend checking out the Tea Dragon series, as well as the very first Tea Dragon story if you want a little bit more adventure in this fantasy world. And lastly, we have Aquicorn Cove. So this is the most recent of Katie O'Neill's graphic novels. So this one is a story about a young girl named Lana who grows up living with her father. So when she was a child, she lived in a seaside town, but since the story has started, they've moved away from this town. But after a terrible storm wrecks the town, her father and her decide to come back home, and they try to clean up the debris together. But as she's cleaning up the debris, she finds a very tiny little creature called an aquicorn. And this aquicorn, you can kind of think of a magical seahorse. And she realizes that this little aquicorn needs her help. And so does the ocean, because the ocean in this town is being destroyed. It's being polluted and overfished, and the aquicorns are dying. And they're getting pretty angry at the humans who live in the village and starting to think about turning the tides on them. Well, if Lana wants to help save her home, her family, and the aquicorns, she's going to need to muster all the strength she has. So you'll have to read to find out if she's able to help the ocean and her people. So this is another awesome, awesome graphic novel. So Katie O'Neill has a lot of really cool fantasy stories all about friendship and strength and finding the courage in oneself. So I definitely recommend checking those out.
Hello, it's Rebecca. I'm here to share with you some books that I am thankful for. The first book that I'm going to share that I am thankful for is called Sam the Man and the Chicken Plan. This is by Frances O'Rourke Dowell. So Sam the Man and the Chicken Plan is about Sam, a 7-year-old boy who he's very mature for his age, very responsible. Sam lives with his family. He has an older sister, Annabelle, who's 12, and she is making $20 a pop mowing lawns. And Sam decides, yeah, I want to earn some money too, like my sister. But what can a 7-year-old do to earn money? Luckily, Sam's neighbor, Mrs. Kerner, stopped by looking for someone to watch her chickens while she went away for a couple days. But his sister was too busy mowing lawns, so Sam volunteered. How much money will he earn? Will he get $20 a pop like his sister? Once Sam earns some money, he has to decide how to spend it. And once he spends his money, it leads to some new, interesting situations and a new job and Sam's desire to have a chicken of his own. And I learned the coolest thing in this book. I thought chicken eggs were either white or brown, but chicken eggs can be all sorts of different colors. Wait until you see what color eggs one of these chickens lays. The other thing I really like about Sam the Man and the Chicken Plan is the sense of community and the kind of neighborhood he lives in, where everyone is supportive of each other and helpful and kind. I really love that. I've been reading some children's books where I'm finding that the kids are really mean to each other, and it was very refreshing to read a book where people were nice to each other for a change. So if you want to read a book where people are actually nice to each other in it, give Sam the Man and the Chicken Plan a try. I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's a very sweet story. And if you like that one, there's another one, Sam the Man and the Rutabaga Plan. And I know that his chickens are also in that book too. So my second book that I'm thankful for is called Clementine by Sara Pennypacker. Clementine is a third grader who lives in Boston in an apartment with her family. Her friend Margaret also lives in Clementine's apartment building. While Clementine is a third grader, Margaret is a fourth grader, and she does like to remind her of that. In this book, Clementine is having a very hard week. She's been at the principal's office several times. The first time just for helping Margaret out with her hair. She also ends up getting into a little fight with Margaret, and by the end of the week, she thinks her family is about ready to get rid of her for real. What I love about Clementine is, first of all, she has really good intentions. She never means to cause trouble. She's always trying to help out, and sometimes for some reason trouble just seems to find her. She reminds me a little bit of Ramona Quimby. If you've read any of the Ramona books by Beverly Cleary, and you like Ramona, you might like Clementine too. The other thing I really like about Clementine is that she's a really good big sister. Now, Clementine is also a fruit, and Clementine thinks it's very unfair that while she is named for a fruit, her brother is not. So she decides he should be named for a vegetable. And I don't know what her brother's real name is because she's always calling him a different vegetable name. But she is a very good big sister to spinach or lima bean or broccoli or whatever she happens to be calling him for that day. Another thing about Clementine is that she gets told to pay attention a lot by adults, especially at school. And she's always like, but I am paying attention. Just maybe not to the stuff that her teachers or adults might think she should be paying attention to. And the final thing I will share with you about Clementine is that she thinks the prettiest words can be found in the bathroom. And that is where she finds the names for pets and various other things. I don't want to tell you too much, but if you think that those character traits I shared with you would make an interesting character to read about, give Clementine a try. And thanks for listening to 2 books that I'm thankful for. I hope that you will be thankful for them too. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mrs. Mendelson, and I'm going to talk to you about some books that we are thankful for. First book I want to talk about is from our series, What Is, Who Was, Who Is, and these are some of our newer ones. And this one is What Is the Story of Doctor Who? I chose this one because I'm a big Doctor Who fan. I hope you will read this and learn to be a Doctor Who fan too, but if not, we have plenty of others to choose from. Let me tell you a little bit about this one, okay? So this is going back to, tells you the whole story of it. So going back to 1963 when the BBC needed to develop a family-friendly show. They wanted to be scientific and educational, family-friendly. So they came up with the idea of Doctor Who. He travels around in his TARDIS, which means time and relative dimension in space. And the first actor they got to play it, William Hartnell, who was the Doctor, he was on the show for 3 years, but then he got ill and he couldn't do it anymore. So what they wound up doing for the character to keep it going, because it became so popular, is they came up with what's called regeneration. So by changing from one face and body to another, they were able to just have new actors take over the role. So it started in 1963 and it went up until about in the 1980s. Late 70s, early 80s, and then it kind of took a break, and then they started again with a one-off movie in the late 80s, and then it was revived again in 2005, and that was what's called the modern era, and that's what most people tend to watch now, especially here in America. So the Doctors, there have been 5 Doctors since the new era, and they fight against or overcome the same kinds of villains from the older series, so Cybermen, Daleks, Slovene, all sorts of monsters and evils. Okay, so this is one of those books there. And also, if you like sports, What is the World Cup? And we have the story of Wonder Woman, who is Coretta Scott King, who is Princess Diana. There's also a Batman one. We have a whole bunch of them. So when you come to the library, you can take a look at those. This one is a brand new book. It's called Whale of the Wild by Rosanne Parry. She wrote a previous book called Wolf Called Wander. They are based on real life animal adventures or travels, and this one is based on the orcas, the southern resident killer whale that live in the Pacific Northwest. This pod of whales, they're very specialized, but they're also in danger due to pollution and climate change. They only eat salmon, so they follow the salmon runs, and again, with all the things between overfishing and the water's warming, their salmon isn't always available for them to find. This is told in alternate narration between Vega, who's the female, and Deneb is her younger brother. Something happens, a tragedy happens, and Vega and Deneb are separated from the rest of their pod, and they are trying to find their way back. Vega is actually in training to be what they call a wayfinder, so she would be the one to lead the pod and in the search for salmon and safety. And they wind up getting separated, and it takes them a long time to survive. They eventually will, things will eventually change. I don't want to give too much away in the story. And it is inspired by the true whales of the Salish Sea.
Hi, I'm Miss Joanne, and I'm here to tell you about Gooseberry Park by Cynthia Rylant. It's an amazing story about 4 very unlikely friends and a very, very bad ice storm. The 4 friends are Konya the dog, Gwendolyn the hermit crab, Stumpy the red squirrel, and Murray the silly bat. One night, there's a terrible, terrible ice storm, and Stumpy is in her nest in Gooseberry Park protecting her 3 babies. Murray is there too, helping keep them warm. Stumpy is so worried about the storm that she leaves Murray in charge of her babies, and she runs down the tree and out of Gooseberry Park trying to find help. In the meantime, Konya and Gwendolyn are safe in their home, but worried, very, very worried about their friends in the park. The next day, with ice everywhere, Konya does his best to get himself to the park to find his friends Stumpy and Murray and the 3 babies. He does make it to the park, but the tree is down, the nest is out of the tree, Murray is snuggling with those baby squirrels trying to keep them warm, and Stumpy is nowhere to be found. Can Konya help Murray and the babies get warm and safe? Can the friends find Stumpy? Where did she go? Read all these adventures in Gooseberry Park. Find out what unlikely creatures help track down Stumpy and how she is saved. It's pretty clever what they do, and how they reunite her with her babies. And then, before the story is over, you will also hear what happened to Stumpy while she was out searching and alone. It's a wonderful story, great adventure, and a good way to see how 4 unlikely friends can help one another in bad times. If you like this story, there's also Gooseberry Park and The Master Plan, also by Cynthia Rylant. Enjoy both stories. Hilo, The Boy Who Crashed to Earth by Judd Winick is a great story, and it's a graphic novel with great pictures too. Now, Hilo comes crashing down to Earth. DJ is out in his yard and sees this bright light falling to Earth and decides to go and investigate. And in the ditch where the bright light crashed, DJ looks down and sees this boy wearing just his underwear. Now, he decides to bring Hilo home to help him. And because DJ lives with 4 other brothers and sisters and a mom and dad, sneaking another boy into the house is no big deal. Nobody even notices Hilo. DJ brings him to school with him, although Hilo doesn't understand why he can't wear his underwear to school and has to borrow some of DJ's clothes. So they go to school, Hilo is there, everything's going good, and then they realize not only did Hilo crash to Earth, but so did something else. And now it's after Hilo. DJ needs to help Hilo, but he can't do it all on his own. Can he trust his family to help, or his friends? Who does he turn to? And can Hilo escape from his danger? Read to see who ends up helping who and what adventures they go on to get away from the evil that crashed to Earth as well as Hilo. Now, if you enjoy this fun story, you'll also enjoy the other 4 books about Hilo.
Called Choose Your Destiny Star Wars. And the very first book in this series is a Han and Chewie adventure. And this book is about the grumpy smuggler Han Solo and his famous furry sidekick Chewie, or Chewbacca, and they are on their beloved spaceship, the Millennium Falcon. Your job is to make sure they deliver the goods to the dangerous Jabba the Hutt. And this proves to be easier said than done, as all these obstacles pop up in this galaxy located far, far away. In order to help Han and Chewie, you have to make choices, and there are over 20 different outcomes that lead to different adventures in this book. Sometimes you come out winning, and sometimes you come out getting taken by stormtroopers. We also have in this series a Luke and Leia adventure and an Obi-Wan and Anakin adventure. This is a perfect series for those who, of course, love Star Wars, but if you like the original Choose Your Own Adventures or even the Choose Your Own Adventures horror, you might want to check this out too. I hope you enjoy it. And this is a graphic novel with a great blend of mystery with some humor thrown in. The main character is a bird skeleton, I kid you not, an actual bird skeleton, and to be exact, he is a frog-mouth bird skeleton. This is a real species. If you look it up, you will learn that they are nocturnal and that they come from mostly Australia. And so this particular bird skeleton calls himself Sherlock Bones because he loves the famous detective Sherlock Holmes. He lives in a natural history museum, and his absolute best friend in the world is a stuffed blue parrot named Watts. And the museum has been infiltrated by a very much alive raccoon named Grace, who drives Sherlock Bones crazy and who is also obsessed with chocolate. Now, the museum's royal blue diamond goes missing, and Sherlock Bones and Watts learn that the museum might close because of this. And so it has to be found. And Sherlock Bones knows that he is the bird for the job. He must solve the case and save the day and his home. However, between Grace the raccoon and the pesky nighttime security guard, who is also looking for something in the museum at night, this is proving trickier than Sherlock Bones thought. This book had me laughing as Sherlock Bones races around the museum, hoping to find the diamond before the night is over. Does he find the diamond? And what will happen to Grace if museum staff learns that there is a live animal in their museum? You'll have to read to find out, and I hope you like it as much as I did.